In the heart of Uganda, nestled beyond sprawling banana gardens and winding red clay paths, lay a village called Kyengera. Here, the mornings were filled with the songs of birds, and the evenings echoed with the sound of drums carrying news across the hills. Life was simple, life was peaceful. But in this serene village lived a man who shattered every moment of peace. His name was Sefu. It's time with Folktales with Shafi. Get seated and enjoy the story. Every child, every elder, and every traveler who passed through Kyengera knew of Sefu, not for his goodness, but because he was the most shameless man anyone had ever encountered. His skin was dark and his body was strong, but his heart was darker than a moonless night. When the villagers planted their maize, Sefu would sneak into their gardens and steal the cobs right off the stalk, long before they were ripe. If someone left cassava to dry under the warm sun, Sefu would stroll by, let out a hearty laugh, and carry it away in broad daylight. If a woman was cooking beans for her family, he would walk right into her home, scoop the food out with his bare hands, and eat it while staring her down, as if daring her to object. The villagers feared him, not because he possessed any magic, but because he possessed no shame. He could commit evil in the bright light of day without even blinking. One afternoon, old Mamanaki realized her favorite chicken was missing. She searched high and low. Finally, she spotted Sefu under a large mango tree, roasting her chicken over a fire. She ran to him, shouting, "Sefu, that is my chicken." Sefu just smiled, his lips greasy with fat. "If it is your chicken," he taunted, "come and take it from my teeth." And with that, he took another deep bite, laughing so loudly that even the goats grazing nearby scattered in fear. Children whispered his name as they played their games. "Be careful," one would say. "If Sefu hears your laughter, he'll find a way to spoil it." Another would add, "He has no heart. Even if your grandmother is sick, he will still demand food from her." And indeed, Sefu had no mercy. One evening, the elders of Kyengera gathered around the great fire. Misisi, the chief elder, spoke with a heavy voice. "This man Sefu is a thorn in our flesh. He steals, he mocks, he brings shame upon our village. But he does not fear our words." Another elder, Nakabing, shook his head sadly. "He is worse than a prideful man. Pride at least hides behind a show of strength. Sefu performs his wickedness openly, as if he enjoys the pain he causes." The people all agreed, but no one dared to face him directly. If you tried to fight Sefu, he would humiliate you in front of everyone. He would twist the story until you looked like the thief, and the village children would laugh at you for weeks. But deep in the hills, beyond the river, ancient stories were told of a wandering stranger. Some said a man, others a spirit, who punished those who had no shame. His name was whispered as Kintu, the quiet traveler. Some tales said he arrived with storms, others said he came with a profound silence. But all agreed on one thing: he came only when evil grew too loud to ignore. No one in Kyengera knew if this Kintu was real. Yet when the sky darkened strangely one afternoon, and a fierce wind carried dust across the paths, some villagers whispered amongst themselves, "Could it be that the stranger is coming for Sefu?" But Sefu only laughed. He stood right in the middle of the market, where women sold matok and boys chased goats, and he shouted for all to hear, "If there is a spirit, let it come. I will sell its shadow and eat its bones. Who can touch me, Sefu the fearless?" The people gasped. Some spat on the ground to chase away the bad omen his words had summoned. Even the old drummers stopped their rhythms. The air grew heavy, as if the ancestors themselves had heard his defiant challenge. That night, Sefu slept without a care in the world. He snored so loudly that the crickets stopped their chirping. But in his dreams, he saw strange and unsettling things. A river of fire flowed across the fields. A giant drum beat without hands. And a shadow with no head stood before him and whispered, "A man without shame, a man without ground." and a man without ground will fall. Sefu woke with a cold sweat on his forehead. For the first time in his life, a sliver of fear touched him, but by morning he had brushed it off. Dreams are for cowards, he declared, and went out to steal milk from a neighbor's cow. The village waited, holding its collective breath. Would Sefu continue his shameless ways, or would the stranger Kintu truly come to teach him a lesson? The days that followed in Kyengera grew heavier. The clouds hung low and the air was restless. The villagers whispered that Sefu's wickedness had finally reached the ears of the ancestors, but Sefu only grew worse. He stole milk from the goats, snatched bananas from the hands of children, and laughed while doing it. His shamelessness was now louder than the midnight drums. One afternoon, a young girl named Amina was carrying water from the river. She struggled with the heavy pot, her little arms shaking. Sefu blocked her path. "Give me that water, child," he ordered. "But it is for my sick mother," Amina pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. Sefu sneered. "Then let her drink her sickness." "I am thirsty." He struck the clay pot with his stick, and it shattered, spilling the precious water into the dust. Amina fell to her knees and cried. The villagers saw what happened, but no one dared to intervene. Sefu simply walked away laughing, leaving the little girl in tears. That night, a strange, unnatural silence fell over Kyengera. The frogs stopped croaking. The owls did not hoot. Even the wind held its breath. The people huddled in their huts, whispering anxiously. Then, just as the moon reached the center of the sky, they heard slow, deliberate footsteps at the edge of the village. A tall man entered Kyengera. He wore a long robe of bark cloth, and his face was partly hidden by shadows. He carried a staff carved with strange ancient symbols, and his eyes glowed faintly like fireflies in the deep dark. The villagers knew at once. This was no ordinary traveler. This was Kintu, the stranger from the hills. The next morning, Sefu was sitting under his usual mango tree, chewing on stolen sugar cane. Kintu walked straight toward him. The villagers followed from a safe distance, their fear mixed with a desperate curiosity. "Sefu," Kintu's voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of thunder before a storm. "Your shame has filled this land. Your wickedness is louder than the drums. Today, you will answer for it." Sefu threw his head back and laughed. "You are just another man in rags. Do you think I fear you? Look, villagers, another fool comes to challenge me." But Kintu only raised his staff. The ground beneath Sefu's feet began to shake. The mango tree twisted, its branches bending as if in agony. The villagers gasped in awe and terror. Still Sefu shouted, "Tricks. These are nothing but tricks." He tried to stand, but his legs trembled uncontrollably. The staff glowed brighter, and suddenly his voice cracked like a broken drum. No laughter came out. The people murmured among themselves. "The spirits have answered." Sefu staggered, dropping the sugar cane. His shameless smile finally faded. But instead of begging for mercy, he spat on the ground. "I will never bow. Not to man, not to spirit." Kintu's eyes burned even brighter. A man without shame is already lost, and a lost man must walk the path alone. He struck his staff firmly on the earth. The ground split open beneath Sefu's feet. Dust and smoke billowed out. The villagers screamed and scrambled back. Sefu tried to run, but the earth swallowed him slowly, pulling him down as if the land itself was hungry for justice. His hands clawed at the soil, his eyes wide with a terror he had never known. "Help me! Someone help me!" He cried for the first time in his life, but no one moved. The same people he had mocked, robbed, and shamed watched in silence. Only little Amina whispered, "That is for my mother." Sefu's voice faded as the ground closed over him. The earth became still once more. The mango tree straightened, its leaves looking fresher and greener than ever before. The villagers fell to their knees, bowing to Kintu, but he raised his staff and said, "Do not bow to me, bow to humility, bow to kindness. A village that fears shame will never be cursed." With that, he turned and walked away, his steps fading back into the hills. The people of Kyengera never saw him again. From that day forward, the village changed. The people learned to share, to protect one another, and to never again let wickedness rule them. And when children asked about the big mango tree by the market, the elders would say, "That is where the shameless man fell. Remember him and never be like him." And every night, when the drums beat and the fires burned bright, the story of Sefu, the shameless man, was told not with fear, but as a lesson that even the youngest child could understand. A person without shame has no place in this world. Thank you for joining us for this powerful tale. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more legends from around the world. We'll see you next time.